Kids love a Disney princess, and who can blame them? They're kind, they're caring, and they're usually pretty badass too. If you're a grown-up, however, you might notice a whole different side to these iconic movie characters. Here are some things only adults notice about Disney princesses. It's not all that easy pinning down Beauty and the Beast's time frame. The movie falls into that generic post-medieval era to which so many other fairy tales belong. You know, the kind of time where the gowns all have hoop skirts, but where there aren't so many knights in shining armor around. However, Luke Evans, who plays Gaston in 2017's Beauty and the Beast, narrowed the era down considerably in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, saying, "When Gaston was about 16, he protected the town from a pack of Portuguese marauders in 1740. Based on this assertion, you can safely assume that Beauty and the Beast takes place in the 1750s, perhaps as late as 1760. And sure, the reign of Louis XV serves as a good backdrop for this beloved romance until you remember what happened a couple of decades later. Yes, it seems likely that Belle and the Beast are going to find themselves in a spot of bother once the French Revolution comes around in 1789. Luckily, their grisly fate isn't quite set in stone. In 2020, Disney launched The Queen's Counsel, a new line of historical novels that intertwine their heroines' stories with actual historical events. And sure enough, Rebel Rose, the first book in the series, finds Belle living in 1789. She's just freed the Beast from his spell, but the revolution is coming to town, and she soon finds herself torn between her roots as a commoner and her future as a royal. Sounds like she better start teaching Lumiere the words to La Marseillaise. Kids will be easily swept up in Pocahontas' tale of conflict, harmony, and sentient willow trees, but adults will likely be aware of just how much Disney's version differs from the actual story. So what are the biggest differences between real life and the silver screen? Well, firstly, the woman known as Pocahontas wasn't actually called Pocahontas. She was named Amanut, and sometimes also known as Maduaka. Pocahontas was a nickname meaning Little Wonton, which she garnered for her mischievous nature. Little is the key word there, of course, because Pocahontas certainly was little. In fact, she was roughly 11 or 12 when she rescued John Smith. Even the veracity of that rescue is in doubt, however, as some historians suggest Smith lifted the tale entirely from a popular ballad. Pocahontas was later kidnapped by an English colonist and used as a bargaining chip during the First Anglo-Powhatan War. She was eventually taken to another English settlement, where she converted to Christianity, took the name Rebecca, and accepted a marriage proposal from a man named John Rolfe. Though this marriage led to a truce known as the Peace of Pocahontas, the woman herself died in England only a handful of years after her marriage, at the age of 21. Disney isn't the first to co-opt Pocahontas for their own purposes, and they won't be the last. But that doesn't change the awful truth behind her real-life story. Mulan has got to be one of the most courageous Disney princesses of all. Despite her lack of training, her insecurities, and the limitations placed on her because of her gender, Mulan goes to war in her father's place. Luckily, everything turns out pretty much okay. She saves the day, wins the war, and reunites with her father. Not every version of Mulan's tale ends so well, however. If you're familiar with the ancient folk stories that inspired Mulan, you'll know that her story has carried all kinds of moral lessons over the years, including a few that aren't exactly family-friendly. For example, Chu Renho, author of the late 17th century romance of Sui and Ting, depicts Mulan as a virtuous warrior, one who becomes a sworn sister to the benighted Princess Shenya. Tragically, the respect she earns while posing as a man pretty much vanishes when it's revealed that she's actually a woman. Rather than be forced into concubinage, Mulan cuts her own throat over her father's grave, and this is just one of many versions of Mulan's story, one that demonstrates just how much a story can change over the course of history. The Princess and the Frog is unique among Disney movies in that it has a very specific real-world setting, New Orleans in 1928. Granted, there are a few liberties taken here and there, but by and large, Tiana lives in the world as we know it. World War I took her father from her, so-called sugar barons and cotton kings dominate the Louisiana she lives in, and businessmen dismiss her ambitions for regrettably predictable reasons.
A little woman of your background would have had her hands full trying to run a big business like that.
Of course, Tiana ends up proving the naysayers wrong. Best of all, even her success is rooted in history. Tiana was inspired by Leah Chase, a legendary chef known as the Queen of Creole cuisine. Her restaurant, Dooky Chase, is an American landmark, having become a gathering place for the members of the civil rights movement, a dazzling art gallery, and of course, a celebrated beacon of Creole cooking. Dooky Chase has served leaders and luminaries ranging from Barack Obama to Ray Charles, who even mentions the restaurant in Early Morning Blues. Chase, who was delighted to serve as the inspiration for Tiana, passed away in 2019 at the age of 96. Her legacy lives on in her restaurant, her cooking, and of course, The Princess and the Frog. What is a Disney princess? Well, that's easy. It's a princess from a Disney movie, right? And sure, things can get a little fuzzy.
Okay, first, I'm not a princess. I'm the daughter of the chief.
Same difference.
No.
If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess.
But the definition generally holds. Then again, what about Mulan? As a commoner, albeit one of great distinction, Mulan isn't a princess, even by the most generous definition of the word. Moreover, neither Elsa nor Anna from Frozen are considered official Disney princesses. Even if you allow for Elsa's exclusion, given the fact that she is a queen, that doesn't explain why Anna wasn't considered one when the first movie came out. In reality, what makes a Disney princess is a question with no real answer, and the literal definition of a princess has never really mattered much. As longtime Disney fans might recall, Mulan has been part of the line from the very beginning, as was Tinkerbell, until she was removed to lead the Disney Fairies franchise. Even Anna and Elsa's position has also grown murkier in recent years. Their inclusion in Ralph Breaks the Internet's princess-centric scenes can be taken as evidence that they are now considered Disney princesses, yet they remain absent from the official Disney Princess website. So what gives? What actually makes a Disney princess? For now, the answer remains a mystery. Believe it or not, some people weren't exactly keen on the idea of a line of Disney princesses. Roy E. Disney, Walt Disney's nephew and a longtime executive at the company, was among the most outspoken critics of the franchise. He believed that bringing the princesses together under one brand would basically destroy the value of their movies. This had been the prevailing wisdom for years too. Once upon a time, an Ariel doll would have been very clearly marketed as a Little Mermaid, while a Jasmine doll would have been marketed as an Aladdin toy. Disney and those of like minds believed that the movies were the core of the company and shouldn't be messed with under any circumstance. Obviously, the Disney princess idea prevailed and went on to earn the company billions of dollars, but the critics managed to win a few concessions. For example, each princess is distinguished by a signature color, meaning that Aurora's infamously color-changing dress was made to settle on pink, so as not to compete with Cinderella. Strangest of all, however, it was agreed that the princesses should never make eye contact. Whether they appeared together on backpacks, cereal boxes, and posters, they were to give no indication that they existed on the same plane as the princess beside them. These days, however, you've got to assume that this rule is no longer strictly observed, given, well, this.
Do you have daddy issues? I don't even have a mom! Neither do we!
Picture this, a band of heroes from a range of Disney movies gathered together to fight evil in one epic blockbuster movie. Sure, your mind might go to these guys, but forget about them for a minute. What about a movie that brings together every Disney princess? Of course, an idea like that would have seemed absurd once, but in the era of the cinematic universe, all things are possible, as Ralph Breaks the Internet proved back in 2018. Though the Disney princesses take up little of Ralph's runtime, they made a huge impact on the discourse surrounding the movie. Multiple news items dissecting, discussing, and celebrating the scene sprung up in the movie's wake. A boatload of merchandise of the princesses and their loungewear was released, and fan speculation over a pan-princess movie began in earnest. And these aren't just idle fan rumors either. Ralph directors Phil Johnston and Rich Moore have considered the possibility themselves. In an interview with the AV Club, Moore called it, quote, an idea worth exploring, revealing that no matter where the movie played, fans were off the charts about the princess scene. Though they noted that they have no idea if this is an idea that Disney is considering, the fact that it was brought up at all shows that there is some serious creative interest about a Disney princess crossover movie. The world of Disney princess merchandise is vast and ever expanding. Even the luckiest kid in the world couldn't hope to own every single princess branded item pushed out into the marketplace, and that's only counting the stuff explicitly meant for kids. While most Disney princess merch is indeed for children, there is a whole range of products featuring Disney princesses that's squarely aimed at grown-ups. Considering tying the knot, you can now put a Disney princess engagement ring on it, then walk down the aisle in a Disney princess wedding dress. Want to keep the Disney spirit alive as you eat? You can buy a 16-piece dinnerware set inspired by your heroine of choice. Looking to primp in princess style? Then drop a few $100 on some Disney princess branded makeup. You can even liven up boring grown-up tasks like meal planning and bill payment with the official Disney Princess Planner. You can't say they don't go all out, can you? Ideally, a trip to a Disney park should feel effortlessly magical. And the passion these parks inspire and their legions of devotees proves that most of the time, Disney just about pulls it off. But when it comes to hanging out with the princesses themselves, things start feeling a lot less effortless. Now, meeting the princesses is certainly possible. They're placed all over the park and are usually available for photos, autographs, and tearful confessions of childhood love. But then there are the rarer events, like Cinderella's royal table, a luxurious meal at Cinderella's castle that features appearances from the princesses themselves. These events are a whole lot harder to attend, and thousands of posts, articles, and blogs exist that aim to help park goers wrangle a reservation. According to one intrepid mom, Cinderella's royal table requires an aspiring dinner guest call exactly 180 days prior to the desired date at precisely 7 a.m. Not even that is foolproof, however, and some gurus suggest making multiple reservations, lest one time become untenable. This sort of reservation hoarding is controversial to say the least, but when it comes to making the magic happen for little ones, most parents are willing to play a little dirty. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.